Welcome to my tutorial on how to weave in your end Purl-Wise. This is actually a follow-up to a tutorial that I did. It's mentioned in the description section. It talks about weaving in your ends when you attach a new color, which is basically what you are doing in this this particular project for the Lizard Ridge Afghan. So as you see here, I've actually cast on 43 stitches, and of course you have a tail. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to knit down this row, and typically when you weave in your ends, you weave them in knitwise versus purl-wise, and so typically you would just have to weave this end in traditionally with a tapestry needle or with a sewing needle. So I'm going to show you today a procedure on how to actually weave this in by knitting it in purl-wise, which is typically not done. Typically, there are lots of tutorials out there on how to do it knitwise, including mine, but I'll show you guys how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is knit down 43 stitches to get to the tail end. So what I'll do is I will come back once I get to the end to show you how to actually purl in your tail. Okay, so I've finished the knit pass here. I've knitted all the way down. This is the stockinette stitch, by the way. And the stockinette stitch is where you knit down one side and you turn your work and then you purl the other side. So we're now at the point where we're going to turn our work and purl the other side. And of course, this is the opportunity that you have, because you can't do this on the knit pass, because on the knit pass your tail is on the opposite end. So now we've met up with our tail again, and so now we can actually purl it in or weave it in purl-wise. So what you do is you insert your needle, and then I'm holding this upside down so you can see it from the underside. And then you want to take your tail, and then you want to go to the left, and then around the right needle. And then you take your working yarn, and then you go to the right and around like this. And then what you do is you take your tail and then swing it back around, and then you purl. And then you purl the next stitch. As usual. So that's your second stitch. And then your third stitch, because you're working with your tail on your odd stitches. So again, to the left and around the needle. And then you take your working yarn to the right and around the needle. This. And then you take your tail and then you kind of swing it out of the way. And then you complete your purl. And then the fourth stitch, you just purl usual or normally. And then the fifth stitch, take your tail to the left and around, and then take your working yarn to the right and around and over, and then you take your tail and move it out of the way, and then you complete your purl. And then the next stitch, which of course is your even stitch or stitch 6, just purl as usual. And the seventh stitch, that's an odd stitch, you're working with your tail again. So to the left and around, then take your working yarn to the right and over and around, and then you take your tail out of the way, and then you complete that purl. And then you just purl the 8th stitch, and then the last one I do is the 9th. Always finish on the 9th, and then you to the left and over, and then to the right and over, and then out of the way, finish the purl. And then the 10th stitch, just a normal purl. And so what we've done is we've woven this in, and you can tell that you've done it properly because you've carried the tail all the way down 10 stitches. If you do this and your tail is still down here, like on your third or your fourth stitch, it's because you didn't do the under over properly. And so that's why you want to make sure that you're wrapping this, your tail, from the left and around, and then your working yarn from the right and around, and then you take this out of the way, because you don't want to purl both of these through one stitch, because in essence you'll be picking up a stitch if you do it that way. So that is how to weave in your end Purl-Wise. And don't forget to watch the other tutorials in this series. This is the Colorwork series for the Lizard Ridge Afghan. Thank you for watching, and please make sure you subscribe to my channel. All right, thanks, bye.